Hello learners, welcome to SWAM online series lectures on database management system. I am Professor Madla Bukhari, working as a professor in the Department of Computer Science, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. Today I will discuss about the very crucial topics of authorization. Authorization is very important topics. Then it is related to authentications also. So we will discuss in detail about authorization and authentications, which will help to improve the design in database. Before going to discussion, we will discuss previous discussion. In the last lecture, I have discussed about data security, data integrity, and importance of data. Before going to today's agenda, I would like to explain or answer the previous lecture's question which I had given you in the last lecture. The first question was what is data security? Data security involves protecting data from unauthorized access, corruptions, or thefts throughout its life cycle. This includes implementing measures such as encryptions, access control, authentication mechanism, and data masking to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data. Data security aims to safeguard sensitive informations against potential threats, breaches, and vulnerabilities, ensuring compliance with regulatory requirement and maintaining trust in data handling practices. The next question was, explain data integrity in detail. Data integrity ensures the accuracy, consistency, and reliability of data throughout its life cycle. It involves maintaining the integrity of data through mechanisms such as validation rules, error checking, and ensuring that data remains unchanged during storage, transmission, or processing. Data integrity measures prevent unauthorized modifications, corruptions, or loss of data, ensuring that information remains trustworthy and reliable for decision making and business operations. The third question was, describe importance of data security in detail. The answer is, data security is crucial for protecting sensitive information from unauthorized access, thefts, or manipulations. It ensures confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data, safeguarding against potential breaches, fraud, or data losses. Effective data security measures instill trust in data handling practices, mitigate risk of financial and reputational damage, and ensure compliance with regulatory requirements. Maintaining robust data security is essential for safeguarding organizational assets and maintaining customer trust. So the today's agenda is to discuss authorization, advantage and disadvantage of authorization, need of authorization, types of authorization, authentication, how authenticate the users, and then advantage, disadvantage of authentications, need of authentication, types of authentications. The last is difference between authorization and authentications. So let's take one by one. What is authorization? On the screen you can see that we give the authorization The data is secure. Authorized person can only, here the screen is there, unauthorized person can enter. So you have to give the password, users, and then from that they are able to retrieve information from the system also. So first of all, you check the authorization. It means the process of granting someone the ability to access the resources. If someone want to access the resource, so by that authorization, unauthorized person cannot access the resources available on your organization, on the database, whatever. Here, I have diagrammatic you can say the passport is authorized. When India, the government of India has authorized you to visit different country, you have valid citizenships. So this is a very good example for that. Authorization is a fundamental aspect of database security, playing a crucial role in controlling access to data and database resources. One primary objective of data authorization is to enforce the principle of least privilege, which means granting users the minimum level of access required to perform their job and functions. We give a minimum least privilege. If you want to add, delete, update, there are select for the data for selections, you have to give that. Role play a key role in simplifying authorization management also is there. So one by one, we will discuss about the privilege. Privilege, on the other hand, are a specific right granted to users or roles to perform particular action on database objects. Common privilege, common privilege are there. Select, insert. Suppose you want to insert, you want to retrieve information from your database, you have to select. If you want to add information in data, insert. Update, if you want to update, some employee has changed the positions from a reader to professor, or general manager to COE, whatever, then you have to delete, update, and then delete. Some employee has been expired, you have to delete. So this type of privilege you have to provide for that. Each goes to a specific type of operations. Authorization mechanism ensure that only authorized users possesses the necessary privilege to execute these operations on a specified data or database structure. Access control list provide a more granular level of control by specifying which user or system processes are granted access to a specific object or resources in the database. So here the diagrammatic representation, the authorization is there, and then the system, the authorized person only can, this is a person, authorized person can only retrieve data from that, and then here the what permission to do you have. First of all, system will ask what permission. Okay, you can retrieve, you can update, or you can delete or select only. What type of operations? That is a diagrammatic representation for that. Then come to the advantage of authorizations. First advantage is data protections. Authorization ensure that only authorized user can access specific resources. This protects sensitive data from authorized access, reducing the risk of data breaches. Next is confidentiality. CIA is that confidentiality, integrity, and availability. You have to ensure that. So that by limiting access to unauthorized individuals, authorization helps to maintain confidentiality. Users can only access information relevant to their role and responsibility. Every person has its own role and the responsibility. All users are not given, or sometimes some director have a responsibility, no, he can read, write, whatever. So the confidentiality. Then the prevention of unauthorized activities are the advantage for that. Authorization prevent unauthorized action by restricting users' abilities. It ensures that users can only perform actions they are explicitly allowed to, reducing the risk of malicious attacks. By that, we are able to save from the malicious activities. Yeah, you can say attacks, threats, I can save that for that. Next is compliance with policies and regulation. Also, you have to comply. Authorization mechanism you have to develop for organization. Next is disadvantage of authorization. Everything has advantage, disadvantage. Authorization is it is more complex. Complexity will improve. Administrative overheads are there. Every time you have to update permissions. So you have to more. It will be very time consuming. Sorry. Risk of misconfigurations also, and the user frustrations. So complexity means setting up managing authorization rules can become complex, especially in large organization with numerous users and diverse roles are there. At that time, complexity will be increased. Administrative overheads, it means regularly updating and managing permissions of a growing users base require administrative efforts and can become a time consuming. So it will be more time consuming. Risk of misconfiguration. Incorrectly configured authorization setting may lead to unintended access or denial of access, introducing a risk of security vulnerabilities. So risk of misconfiguration. User frustration. Restricted authorized policies may frustrate user if they find it challenge to access all the resources they need for their task. So at that time it will become more complex. So at some time users will become frustration for authorization checks. Then come to the need of authorization. So here the diagram for need of authorization is the fingertips. You authorize and the key will, when you will press the key, it shows the key will be shown on the screen. It means key will open. The key is the sometimes fingerprints, some passwords user, or by that you are able to retrieve. It means data protection, prevention of unauthorized actions, compliance, and security. There are four needs of authorization. Data protection ensure that only authorized individuals have access to sensitive information, safeguarding data confidentiality. Prevention of unauthorized action. Authorization prevents users from performing action or operations they are not supposed to, reducing the risk of accidental or intentional misuse of resources. By that, we are able to save the resources. Compliance. Many industries and organizations are subject to regulatory requirements and mandate restricts access controls. So, authorization helps to ensure the compliance with these regulations, and only authorized person can access that. So, compliance. Security, it means by limiting the access to a specific resource or functionalities. Authorization helps mitigate the risk of unauthorized access or breaches, enhance overall system security. It means by that authorization, it will improve the data security. An unauthorized person cannot retrieve information and overall enhancing the system security. There are different types of authorization types also there. So here on the screen you can see there are different types of authorizations. Role-based authorizations. Role-based and rule-based authorizations. Attributes-based authorizations and mandatory access control. There are four types of authorization types. Rule-based, it means users are assigned specific roles It means roles is given prevent. You have given permission to only access. Someone is permission to know. You can delete, update, whatever. Role based is mean rule based access decisions are made based on the predefined rules or policies. These rules specify conditions under which access is granted or denied. It offers more fine-grained control compared to the role-based authentications. Attributes-based authorizations, we can say ABC. Access decisions are determined by evaluating attributes associated with the user's resources or environment. Mandatory access controls, it means access is determined by central authorities. It means users and resources are assigned labels and access is granted or denied based on the predefined security policies. So here you can some authentication is there. Verify user identity via credential. Sometime you have given the user's name, password, then login, okay, then fingerprints. So you can give a two-way, three-way. And so first of all, before using the system resources, the authentication must be verified by credentials. So authentication is a fundamental aspect of database management system security, serving as the first line of defense against unauthorized access. It is the process of verifying the identity of users, applications, or system entity attempting to access the database. Authentication mechanism involve the use of user's name and password, where user must provide a unique combination of credentials to prove their identity. Your password must be more complicated. Other person, if person, you can say unauthorized person cannot retrieve your database, or you cannot retrieve your password. So here the diagrammatic the authentication is there. The user enter the login, user password. Then it will, who are you? It will ask system, who are you? It will compare. Then you authorized person. Then you are able to retrieve information from the systems. The advantage of authentications. What are the advantage? Identity verifications. Authentications ensure that the person or system trying to access information is who they claim to be, the same person, not other person. Next is data security. And then is the advantage prevention of unauthorized access. Users accountability. And then the last is confidentiality. Data security means it protects sensitive data by allowing only authorized individuals or system to access it. Preventing of unauthorized access. By confirming identity, authentication prevent unauthorized access or system for gaining access to resources. So unauthorized person cannot access the resources. Users accountability. It creates a record of who access the system, promoting accountability and traceability of the action. So user accountability is also a advantage of authentications. The last is confidentiality. Confidentiality means authentication helps maintain the confidentiality by restricting access to authorized person only. Then come to the points of disadvantage. Forgotten credential. Sometimes we forget the passwords, whatever. Security risk of biometric. Cost of implementations. These are the advantages. And user resistance. And the risk of credential thefts. Forgetting credential, it means users may forget password or other authentication details, leading to frustration and potential lockout from the system. You are not able to retrieve informations. You cannot use a system also. Security risk of biometric authentication, such as fingerprints or facial recognition, may pose security risk if the biometric data is compromised. Cost of implementation, setting up and maintaining the robust authentication system can involve cost of technologies, training, and ongoing supports. For that, you have to spend lots of money. User resistance. Users might resist adopting complex authentication methods, especially if they find them inconvenient or time consuming. Then the user, like, no, I didn't like for that. You provide a very simple logic for that so that I can use the resources. Risk of credential theft. There is a risk of unauthorized access if authentication credential passwords are stolen or compromise. Some take the password. So the risk of credential theft is also that these are the disadvantage for that. And then come to the next point in need of authentication. So here I have given by seeing the diagram, you are able to understand the password and then the keys, values. So verify identity. Authentication confirm that someone is who is they are before gaining access to digital resources. If someone want to use our digital data, for that you have to authentication confirms for that. So verify identity also. Next is protect data and then prevent unauthorized entry. Secure transaction. Transaction must be secure when you are sending data from one place to another place. And the track activities. That these are the need of authentication. It means secure transaction means it ensures that online purchase and transactions are made the rightful owner, preventing frauds. Prevent unauthorized entry. It means authentications are stop unauthorized users from getting into place they should not be, like private account or system. Protect data. We can protect the data. It helps the personal or sensitive information safe from unauthorized access. Types of authentications. There are different types of authentications are password authentications, biometric authentications, two-factor authentications, and the last is multi-factor authentication. Password authentication means user provide a set. It means users have to provide a secret password. If it is correct, grant access and widely used in simple form of authentication. This is the first form of authentication. It means user have to provide a password. Password should be more complex, but it should be memorized. Otherwise, next time you are not able to use the system. Biometric authentication, it means uses unique physical or behavior characteristics like fingerprints, facial recognitions. Two-factor authentication means 2FA requires two different types of authentication, typically password and temporary code sent to mobile devices, adding an extra layer of security. The password is there, you have to add some extra layer of security to send a code to mobile. So if you want to retrieve information more securely, you have to provide authentication by two. First is password and then temporary code send a mobile. Also, there are three multi-factor authentication you can add. It involves using multiple form of authentication, such as something password, something you have security tokens, and something you have biometric. If there are three password, token, and biometric, is called multi-factor authentications. Authentication versus authorizations. I am briefly given the difference between authentication and authorization. See here on the screen you can see authentication means in the authentication process user or person are verified. Only users and person are verified. It is done before the authorization process, authentication. It needs usually the user's login details. Authentication determines whether the person is user or not, is authorized person or not. Only authentication. Authorization, while this process, users and person are validated. In authorization, you authorize, the authentication, what is provided, it is 100% secure, and a user authorized persons. Next is, while this process is done, the authentication process, after authentication process is done, it needs the user privilege or security levels. It determines what permission does the user have. So this is the basic difference between authentication and authorizations. We are giving, today I prepared some questions for your assignment on the topic which I have discussed today. The assignment is like that. What are the difference between authorization and authentications? Explain authorization in details. Description authentication in details. I hope you have enjoyed my exploration, because I have given a detail in my exploration. The interest, I hope you enjoyed my lecture on authentication and authorizations. I hope you will solve the question and it will improve your understanding about data security and how to implement authorization or authentication. Thank you once again for your active participations, and we eagerly anticipate your presence in our upcoming lectures. Thank you very much.